Your position is being eliminated due to restructuring, effective immediately. Sign this by Friday, or you'll get nothing." Brian Kessler slid the severance contract across his mahogany desk as if he were dealing cards. I sat there staring at the document that would end 31 years of my life at Norcross Systems, Inc. Only 27 days stood between me and my full pension. And this 39-year-old CFO knew it. My name is Teresa Langford, and I am 59 years old. For over 3 decades, I served as the Director of Compliance at Norcross Systems, a logistics software company here in Denver, Colorado. I started as a junior analyst, fresh out of college, when the company had just 12 employees and operated out of a converted warehouse. I watched it grow into a 200-person operation with offices across 3 states. I survived 4 mergers, 6 CEOs, and countless rounds of strategic realignments. Through it all, I maintained our regulatory standards, kept us out of legal trouble, and earned the respect of everyone who mattered. Everyone, that is, except Brian Kessler. He had been promoted to CFO just 8 months ago, brought in from some consulting firm to optimize operational efficiency. From day one, he made it clear he viewed compliance as a necessary evil rather than a business safeguard. During budget meetings, he would roll his eyes whenever I requested resources for regulatory updates. He questioned every expenditure, every training session, and every consultant fee that kept us ahead of industry changes. "This is purely a business decision," Brian continued, adjusting his designer tie. "Nothing personal. The board needs to see immediate cost reductions, and frankly, compliance can be handled by our legal department going forward." I nodded calmly, though my heart was pounding. "I understand." "Good. I appreciate your professionalism about this." He seemed relieved that I wasn't fighting back. "The severance package is quite generous, considering the circumstances. 12 weeks of pay, plus your accrued vacation time. 12 weeks versus the full pension I had earned through 31 years of dedicated service. The mathematics were insulting, but I kept my expression neutral. Something felt wrong about this timing. Too convenient, too calculated. In all my years at Norcross, I had never seen anyone terminated this close to pension eligibility. Company policy explicitly protected employees within 30 days of vesting. Yet here I sat with a termination letter dated exactly 27 days before my milestone. "I will review this carefully," I said, placing the contract in my briefcase. "Remember, Friday is the deadline. After that, the offer expires completely." As I walked out of his office, I caught my reflection in the lobby's glass doors. I looked like any other woman approaching retirement. Gray hair, neatly styled, conservative business suit, sensible shoes. What Brian didn't see was the fire burning behind my calm exterior, or the network I had built over 3 decades in this industry. I returned to my office on the 14th floor. It's the same corner space I had occupied for the past 8 years. The walls were lined with regulatory certificates, industry awards, and photographs spanning my career at Norcross. There was the picture from our first major software deployment in 2003, another from the company's 20th anniversary celebration, and dozens more chronicling the evolution of both the company and my role within it. My assistant, Patricia, knocked softly on the doorframe. "Teresa, I heard rumors. Is everything okay?" "I am clearing out my office," I said simply. "My position has been eliminated." Her face went pale. "But you're so close to retirement. Can they do that?" "Apparently they can." I began removing personal items from my desk drawers. Each one a small piece of my professional life. The stress ball from our 2015 audit marathon. The coffee mug Ruth Delgado had given me when she retired 6 months ago. A framed photo of my late husband, David. Taken during our anniversary trip to Yellowstone. Patricia lingered in the doorway, clearly wanting to say more but uncertain how to help. She had worked with me for 4 years and understood better than most how integral I was to Norcross's operations. I handled everything from FDA compliance for our medical logistics, clients to transportation regulations for our freight management systems. My departure would leave a massive knowledge gap that couldn't simply be absorbed by the legal department. "Teresa, this doesn't make sense," Patricia whispered. "The Morrison audit is next month. The DOT certification renewal is due in 6 weeks. Can they possibly?" "They will figure it out," I interrupted gently. They always do. But even as I said it, I knew Patricia was right. Brian Kessler had no idea what my department actually did. He saw compliance as paperwork and bureaucracy, not as the complex web of relationships and expertise that kept Norcross functioning legally across multiple jurisdictions. I had spent years building connections with regulatory agencies, understanding the nuances of ever-changing requirements, and developing internal processes that made compliance seamless for our operational teams. The irony wasn't lost on me. 3 months ago, I had prevented a potential lawsuit that could have cost the company millions when I caught a software glitch that was incorrectly calculating freight classifications. 6 months before that, I had negotiated with state regulators to avoid penalties when our Jacksonville office accidentally processed shipments using outdated hazmat protocols. These weren't just administrative tasks. They were business-critical interventions that protected Norcross's reputation and bottom line. As I packed my final box, I thought about Ruth Delgado's retirement party 6 months ago. She had pulled me aside that evening and said something that seemed casual at the time, but now felt prophetic. Watch out for the young ones who think experience is expensive rather than valuable. The box containing 31 years of my professional life fit easily in the trunk of my Honda Accord. As I drove through downtown Denver toward my home in Lakewood, I couldn't shake the feeling that something deeper was happening at Norcross. Brian's termination speech had been too polished, too rehearsed. The severance contract had been prepared in advance, with specific clauses that seemed designed to prevent me from seeking legal recourse. I had seen enough corporate maneuvering over the years to recognize a setup when I encountered one. The timing was suspicious. The explanation was weak, and most telling of all. Brian had seemed nervous despite his confident performance. He kept checking his watch and glancing at his computer screen, as if he was following a predetermined script. My phone rang as I pulled into my driveway. The caller ID showed Patricia's number. "Teresa, I had to call you. After you left, Brian came down to your office with 2 people I didn't recognize. He spent an hour going through your files and computer. When I asked what they were doing, Brian said they were securing sensitive materials for the transition." "Did they take anything?" "They loaded everything into boxes, all your physical files, your computer, even your desk calendar, and Teresa, there's something else." I overheard Brian on a call afterward. He was talking to someone about phase 2 feet and mentioned that the legal department needs to be insulated from liability. What does that mean? I sat in my car for a moment, processing this information. "Patricia, I need you to be very careful about what you say and do at work. Don't ask questions about my termination, and don't discuss this conversation with anyone. Are you going to fight this?" "I am going to explore my options." After hanging up, I remained in my driveway for several minutes, staring at my modest 2-bedroom house. David and I had purchased it in 1995, planning to pay it off before retirement. We had succeeded thanks to careful budgeting and my steady income at Norcross. The pension I was now being denied would have allowed me to maintain my lifestyle, travel, and maybe even spoil the grandchildren I hope to have someday. Instead, I was facing an uncertain financial future with only a minimal severance package to bridge the gap until I could find new employment. At 59, starting over in a new company would be challenging, especially in a field where younger candidates often seemed preferred. Despite lacking the depth of experience I possessed, but as I finally got out of the car and walked toward my front door, I felt something unexpected. Clarity. For the first time in months, I wasn't worried about quarterly compliance reports or regulatory deadlines. I wasn't concerned about managing Brian's unrealistic expectations or justifying my department's value to people who fundamentally misunderstood its importance. I was free to focus entirely on one thing: ensuring that Brian Kessler's calculated cruelty would cost him far more than he had ever imagined. That evening, I sat at my kitchen table with the severance contract spread before me, studying every clause and provision with the same attention to detail I had applied to regulatory documents for 3 decades. The more I read, the more convinced I became that this termination was part of a larger strategy. The contract included unusually restrictive non-disclosure agreements, broad non-compete clauses, and language that would prevent me from discussing my departure with current or former Norcross employees. Most troubling was a section requiring me to acknowledge that my termination was performance-based rather than part of a reduction in force. This was clearly false. My last performance review had been exemplary, and I had never received any disciplinary actions or warnings about my work quality. The contract was designed to protect Norcross from wrongful termination claims while painting my departure as justy.